Hello, my dear warriors. Somewhere above the noise, above the drama, above the cheap performances people put on for each other, there are watchers. Call them analysts, call them readers, call them quiet observers, call them whatever your belief system allows. Their job is simple: scan patterns, track behavior, predict outcomes. They've seen this all before: the rise, the fall, the ego, the crash, humans loop, data loops, energy loops. Nothing really surprises them until you. Because when your energy started moving, it didn't follow the graph. It didn't match your history. It didn't match your environment. It didn't match your wounds. You should have broken. You should have folded. You should have turned into one of them. Bitter, predictable, controllable. But instead, your spirit did something their systems weren't coded for. It stabilized in the storm. It sharpened in betrayal. It got calmer as pressure increased. That's not normal down here. That's not programmed behavior. That's anomaly. So they zoomed in. Call it spiritual surveillance, cosmic analytics, upper-level psychology. Whatever story makes sense. All they knew was this: your energy didn't spike on ego, it spiked on alignment. You didn't power up when people praised you. You powered up when they doubted you. You didn't fold when they sent shade. You got clearer. The more resistance they fed you, the more refined your frequency became, like fire that only cleanses what isn't real. They tried to tag you with labels that work on everyone else: too emotional, too cold, too intense, too distant. But the more they tried to box you, the more your presence slipped through. You wouldn't shrink to fit their language. You wouldn't break to fit their storyline. Even your quiet didn't read as weak. It read as loaded. Like you knew something no one else in the room had downloaded yet. So the watchers did what they don't like to admit they do. They stared longer. They ran your patterns again. Checked your decisions twice. Replayed every season you should have fallen and had to write still standing in the margins. Every projection they put on you snapped back. Every statistic failed. Every expectation missed. You weren't just surviving variables, you were rewriting them. And for the first time in a long time, the ones who thought they'd seen it all had to mark a file. Exception. Because your energy didn't shake when theirs did. Your mind didn't fracture under pressure. Your spirit didn't collapse in isolation. You moved like gravity didn't own you. Like rules applied to everyone, but somehow bent when they reached your orbit. That was the moment, right there, when even the watchers blinked. Not because you were loud, not because you were famous, but because you were impossible and still undeniably real. After the blink, they did what every observer does when faced with something they don't understand. They tried to measure you. They brought out their charts, their models, their maps of how a mind is supposed to behave. And for a moment they felt sure of the outcome. Patterns always fold back into data, right? But your pattern kept shifting mid-calculation. The variables refused to sit still. One moment you fit the profile of the introvert. The next you moved like a leader. Your frequency did what their science hates. It refused to repeat. They tried to track your rise like a trend curve. But the moment they graphed you, the line bent off the page. You weren't ascending, you were expanding. They expected ambition, found alignment, expected ego, found equilibrium. Their equipment isn't built for souls that function like stars, steady core, explosive reach. They watched you lose connections and assumed collapse, then saw the vacuum fill with clarity and called it luck. They saw you walk away from noise and called it withdrawal, until the silence started answering questions they never knew how to ask. That's the thing about those who measure from outside. They never notice the moment energy switches from defense to design. You became unreadable, not because you hid, but because you simplified. They think complexity is power. You proved consistency is. They expect power to shout. You let yours whisper. And that whisper echoes louder than their entire data stream. Behind closed doors, their notes change tone. From predictable subject to anomaly requires review. From observed behavioral loops to possible pattern rewrite in progress. They don't realize they're documenting history. The moment a human remembered, they could bend laws without breaking them. You don't rush anymore. You don't prove. You just adjust your signal and watch the room move. Every emotion you stabilize changes the atmosphere. Every truth you speak shifts the timeline. You're not playing their game anymore. You're rewriting its physics. And so the watchers keep recording, hoping for an equation that can define you. But equations need constants. You are motion, you are flux. You are the reason the law of observation just updated itself. They call it distortion. You call it freedom. That's when the environment began to act strange. The same rooms that once drained you suddenly started to hum when you entered. The same people who used to dismiss you started pausing, recalculating their tone before they spoke. They didn't know why, but the air felt different when you were in it, like gravity was trying to renegotiate its pull. Because the truth is, when awareness upgrades, physics listens. You weren't forcing anything. You didn't chant, or posture, or demand the universe to move. You simply stopped resisting it. And that's what made the field shift. Everything that once tried to corner you started to dissolve into alignment. You were no longer orbiting chaos. Chaos was orbiting you. The watchers thought it was coincidence. Too many to explain, but too uncomfortable to call divine. You thought about someone. They called. You released an old attachment, and within hours a new door appeared. You walked away from noise, and silence turned into a messenger. That's not random. That's resonance. The system responds faster to clean signals. Yours is pure now. They tried to test it again, dropped you into doubt, sent familiar patterns wrapped in new disguises, old temptations with new names. But the frequency in you didn't flinch. It recognized the recycling. You didn't fight. You just observed. And observation itself changed the outcome. That's how mastery feels. Subtle, simple, silent. The storm still happens. It just can't find your coordinates anymore. Then came the confusion. How did you stay calm when the collective panicked? How did your energy stay bright when logic said it should dim? How did you know exactly when to disappear? Exactly when to return? They thought you were calculating. You weren't. You were listening. Listening to timing, to truth, to that invisible metronome that guides only those who've stopped rushing. Reality shifts for people who move in rhythm with it. And that rhythm feels threatening to structures built on fear. That's why they'll call you strange, detached, too neutral. But neutrality isn't disconnection, it's clarity. You're no longer emotionally financing dysfunction. You stopped giving chaos your charge. That's why it's losing power around you. The watchers are still trying to capture it. They take notes, they whisper, they run tests on patience they don't possess. But what they're really studying is evolution in real time. They've never seen someone turn awareness into architecture. They've never seen someone rebuild the field from inside the illusion. Every time you breathe in balance, you're rewriting a rule. Every time you exhale peace, systems shift. You've become the variable their math can't hold. The reminder that laws were written by those who forgot the sky has no ceiling. You didn't just bend the field, you reminded it who created it. When systems lose control, they don't crumble, they overreact. That's exactly what started happening. The air around you thickened with static. People's moods shifted faster than weather. Conversations turned unpredictable. The watchers noticed first, a quiet unrest rippling through their hierarchy of rules, because your energy wasn't just steady, it was influential. They built their world on balance sheets and predictable emotions. When worry rises, they know how to sell comfort. When doubt spreads, they profit from distraction. But when someone like you moves through their framework unbothered, every line of code starts to question its purpose. If one mind can function outside fear, what happens when others remember how? So they doubled down. Systems ran louder. More notifications, more comparisons, more noise. Anything to pull you back into the rhythm of reaction. But you didn't flinch. You stopped chasing relevance and started channeling truth. The world feeds chaos. You fed clarity. And that's what changed everything. Even the ones close to you felt it. They didn't understand why being near you made them self-reflect. Why silence in your presence felt heavier than confrontation. That's what awareness does. It mirrors, and not everyone can handle what it reflects. Some pulled closer to learn, others pulled away to protect their illusions. Either way, the pattern remained. You didn't move. Everything around you did. Behind the scenes, they started running tests. Energetic, social, psychological. Could they predict your next shift? Could they slow the evolution? The answer came quietly, every time. No, because evolution isn't an act. It's an awakening. You weren't reacting to life anymore. You were responding to alignment. That's when their metrics broke. Their formulas collapsed, under the weight of something they couldn't define. They were looking for logic in what was never logic. It was consciousness. The system's worry isn't about you advancing. It's about realizing they can't calculate what doesn't need permission to exist. Now, their algorithms try to mimic your flow. Their minds try to imitate your detachment. But imitation can't copy frequency. It can only chase it. You're already gone, operating on wavelengths. They don't even have words for yet. And while they worry, you stay still. Because real power doesn't announce itself. It recalibrates quietly while the world catches up. It started with your quiet, not a forced silence. Not the kind born from retreat. This was precision. An understanding that words are expensive in a world drowning in noise. You learned that silence isn't the absence of sound. It's the presence of control. Every time you stopped explaining yourself, you shifted the power dynamic. Every time you didn't react, you rewrote the script. People around you felt it before they understood it. Conversations stumbled when you entered the room. Their confidence glitched mid-sentence. It wasn't intimidation. It was reflection. Your energy forced them to hear their own noise echo back at them. They realized the chaos they carried wasn't truth. It was habit. That's the thing about silence. It amplifies everything unaligned. In a world addicted to validation, your restraint became rebellion. When they expected you to justify yourself, you observed instead. When they waited for your anger, you gave them calm, and that calm unsettled them more than any outburst could. Because in that calm was comprehension. It said, I see through you, and I don't need to prove that I do. They used to think influence came from being the loudest, but influence is rhythm. When you move in timing, no one else can predict. You became unpredictable, not because you changed, but because you stopped broadcasting your next move. You started letting presence speak. That's why rooms shift now when you walk in. That's why people can't maintain eye contact for long. They're not looking at you. They're confronting themselves. Your silence has layers. Beneath it lives observation. Beneath observation, calculation. Beneath that, grace. You could expose, but you don't. You could embarrass, but you won't. That's what unsettles them. The self-control. The refusal to play emotional chess, just to prove intellect. You outgrew reaction. You replaced it with awareness. And awareness doesn't shout, it shifts. When you're silent long enough, patterns reveal themselves. Falsehood collapses under its own weight. The truth starts organizing reality without your interference. That's what's happening now. The universe is aligning behind your restraint. The watchers who used to mock your stillness now call it mystery. The same people who doubted your depth now build their content around decoding your vibe. But you don't mind. You knew this moment would come. Silence was never hiding. It was charging. You gave the universe space to rearrange, and now it's paying you back in precision. Every delay turned into direction. Every misread turned into mastery. That's why the silence commands now. It's not passive. It's magnetic. You're not avoiding energy. You're filtering it. You don't chase attention anymore. You select resonance. The ones who align will stay. The ones who fear reflection will fade. That's nature doing quality control. They can keep guessing what you're planning. You're not planning. You're positioning. You're letting silence do the talking because silence speaks fluently in truth. And truth doesn't need volume. It needs vision. Your vision was invisible. A flicker no one else could see. You spoke it softly, testing how it felt in the air. And the world laughed, but you kept whispering, kept refining, until that vision turned into something denser, something the universe could orbit around. Now, every thought you release bends outcomes. Every intention you hold adjusts timelines. That's not ego, that's gravitational authority. See, most people speak from memory. You started speaking from foresight. That's what unsettled them. You weren't describing what is. You were summoning what will be. Every move you made carried the weight of insight. And those who couldn't understand mistook that precision for arrogance. But this isn't arrogance. It's alignment. You didn't rise because of luck. You rose because your frequency was prepared for a storm others still fear to name. You were willing to look unusual in the short term to become inevitable in the long term. That's what true vision does. It invites isolation before it attracts imitation. The same ones who said you changed forgot they were watching the update install. They mocked your silence until it turned into strategy. They laughed at your isolation until it became incubation. Now they quote your words, imitate your tone, and chase the blueprint you left behind. But you're not even there anymore. You've already moved beyond the coordinates. They're just discovering. Your vision became its own gravity. Opportunities that used to feel random now feel rehearsed. The right people show up without needing an invite. The wrong ones disappear without confrontation. You stopped chasing connections and started radiating clarity. And clarity doesn't chase. It attracts. They can't copy that. They can copy language, wardrobe, aesthetic, even struggle, but not frequency. Frequency is earned through experience, through reflection, through knowing when to step back and let destiny rewrite the map. You didn't push for your place. You built a new table, and that's what makes them uneasy. Because your presence bends probabilities. When you enter a room, timing changes. When you walk away, uncertainty follows. Not because you control the world, but because you align with the parts of it that still remember truth. You're no longer reacting to gravity. You are gravity. The watchers will keep studying. They'll chart your rise, analyze your words, dissect your behavior. But they'll never understand the real formula, because it wasn't written in code. It was written in silence, experience, and purpose. They're decoding logic. You're moving through law. Now the world spins differently around you. The ones who once doubted now orbit carefully, trying not to drift too close. But the thing about real vision is, once it stabilizes, even the universe adjusts its axis. And that's exactly what you've done. You didn't just find direction, you became it. You ever notice how lately, things that used to take years just start unfolding overnight? That's not luck. That's alignment catching up. The universe doesn't move fast. It moves when you're finally still enough to match its rhythm. And that's what happened to you. You stopped running after things that weren't meant for you. And suddenly, everything meant for you started running toward you. That's what unsettled them. Because people who operate on effort can't understand someone who operates on frequency. You stopped chasing outcomes and started mastering vibration. You began to realize timing isn't random. It's recognition. The moment your energy aligned with truth, reality started updating itself. Like an overdue system patch. Old doors closed. Not as punishment, but as redirection. Conversations ended mid-sentence because their energy couldn't reach your altitude anymore. Even your silence began shaping events in real time. The universe adjusted itself, not to reward you, but to protect its investment in you. You see, the universe doesn't gamble. It doesn't hand out alignment to just anyone. It waits until a soul becomes disciplined enough to hold power without flaunting it. You reached that point. That's why everything started rearranging in your favor. Not because you asked, but because you became the answer. Those who used to outrun you now feel like they're walking in mud. Their shortcuts expired. Their noise stopped working. Because when your vision becomes gravitational, nothing forced survives. Everything not aligned simply drifts away. That's not rejection, it's cosmic hygiene. You didn't just grow, you recalibrated the ecosystem. People started reacting to you differently without knowing why. Some feel peace when you enter the room, others feel pressure. The difference? Intention. Peace recognizes reflection. Unrest recognizes exposure. You didn't change them. You reminded them who they really are. And now, look at the flow. The very same universe that once tested you is now rearranging itself to amplify you. You don't chase the wave anymore. You are the tide. The watchers who studied your every move can't plot your next one, because you don't move in straight lines. You move in patterns that only intuition understands. You stopped trying to be predictable. You became poetic. You started syncing with the unseen blueprint that the world calls luck. That's why their plans crumble when they include you. Because you don't operate by their cause and effect. You operate by meaning and motion. Now the axis is tilted, and they feel it. The same system that once ignored your presence now depends on your vibration to stay balanced. That's what happens when evolution outpaces imitation. You didn't force the change, you became the change, and once you do that, the universe has no choice but to follow your lead. It started when you stopped asking for signs. You realized the signs were never out there. They were in you. The intuitive pull that wouldn't fade. The sudden clarity, right before everything aligned. The quiet confidence that replaced doubt. That wasn't coincidence. That was confirmation. You learned that people search for direction because they don't trust their own navigation. But you started trusting silence. You began listening to what wasn't being said. And the moment you did that, you became the compass everyone else is now trying to follow. They keep asking, how do you always know where to go? You don't. You just know where not to stay. Your instincts became so sharp that the universe had to keep up. You're not walking paths anymore. You're designing them. That's why things shift to meet you halfway, because the frequency you carry isn't about speed, it's about precision. You don't chase moments, you shape them. And now, look at what's happening around you. The people who once dismissed your intuition now double-check your silence. The same ones who thought you were lost now realize you were studying the map they never found. They start mimicking your moves, trying to decode your rhythm. But rhythm can't be taught. It's felt. It's lived. It's earned through reflection and restraint. You became the compass because you dared to be still when everyone else was panicking. You learned that movement without meaning is just noise. So you paused, you waited, you aligned, and that pause rewired everything. You didn't just find your path. You turned yourself into direction itself. Now your energy whispers instruction. You don't give advice anymore. You give presence. And presence teaches louder than lectures ever could. The ones ready for evolution will understand it. The ones still chasing validation will call it luck. Let them. You don't need agreement to confirm alignment. The universe only reveals coordinates to those who can handle altitude. That's you now. You've reached a point where destiny doesn't send signs. It waits for your decision. You've outgrown prediction. You became pattern. You've stopped reacting to what's happening. You're influencing what happens just by being, and that's why the silence feels elevated now. Because it's not emptiness. It's authority. You move through the world like someone who knows the destination can't begin without them. The timing adjusts, the energy shifts. Even chaos pauses, recognizing the presence of someone who operates from clarity. So when they ask, "How do you always know where you're going?" just smile. They won't understand, because they're still following the map and you became the compass. Hello, my dear warrior. So specially you arrived, you are here. Welcome. Do you feel it? Probably not. Not yet. Because destiny doesn't knock, it doesn't announce. It moves in silence, like a grand master shifting pieces on a board while you're still staring at pawns. Right now, without you even realizing it, everything around you is aligning. The whispers you can't hear, the shifts you can't see, the doors you think are closed, destiny is adjusting them in your favor. And the best part? Your enemies don't know it either. They're laughing, they're plotting, they're convinced they're winning. But while they're blinded by ego, the ground beneath their feet is fracturing. You're not just playing the game, you are the game being rewritten by unseen hands. Every betrayal they threw at you, becoming a wall in your fortress. Every obstacle, becoming a force in your arsenal. You don't even realize it yet, but destiny is tilting the board, and the ones who mocked you are already crumbling. Your enemies walk boldly, don't they? Smirking, plotting, convinced they've cornered you. But what they don't see is the invisible countdown above their heads. Every fake laugh, every whispered scheme, every step they take against you, it's already unraveling. Destiny is moving the pieces while they still believe they hold the board. That's the beauty of it. You don't need to strike. You don't need to warn. You don't even need to react. The collapse is happening in real time. Their alliances are cracking. Their confidence is leaking. Their foundations are trembling under pressure they don't understand. And you're not chasing revenge. You're watching it unfold. That's the terrifying part. They expect chaos from your hands, but instead, chaos comes from the universe itself. And when the dust clears, they'll realize the cruel truth. Their downfall wasn't your doing. It was destiny cashing the debt they created. Here's the truth. Destiny doesn't rush. Destiny doesn't stumble. Destiny doesn't miss. It moves slow, calculated, unseen, like hands rearranging the universe while everyone else is distracted by noise. And right now, those who laughed at you, those who doubted you, those who built entire identities around your downfall, they don't even realize the trap is closing. Their pride blinds them. They think their foundations are solid, but every brick they stand on is loosening. Not because you touched it, but because destiny is tired of their arrogance. It's poetic, isn't it? The same people who mocked you are now unknowingly standing on ground that's crumbling beneath their own weight. And you don't need to lift a finger. You don't even need to be in the room, because destiny's reach is longer than your revenge, sharper than your anger. It delivers justice without you ever speaking a word. Right now, a storm is being fought in silence. Not with fists, not with noise, but with shifts so subtle they escape the naked eye. Doors are opening for you in places you haven't even walked into yet. Conversations are happening in rooms you've never entered, where your name carries more weight than the ones who tried to bury you. Meanwhile, your enemies, they don't see it. They think life is steady. They think they're secure, but their alliances are cracking. Their fake confidence leaking. their strategies rotting from the inside. That's destiny's design. It dismantles arrogance while building resilience. And you, the one they dismissed, are being moved like a king piece across the board. They can't touch you anymore because the game isn't theirs to play. The spotlight isn't theirs to hold. They're swinging at shadows while destiny tightens the grip around their false empire. And when it breaks, it won't be noise, it'll be silence. Here's what most never grasp. Destiny doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't build in the open. It stacks bricks in silence while the world laughs at you for being still. Right now, without you even lifting a hand, forces bigger than you are arranging in your favor. Connections are being formed. You don't see. Doors are unlocking. You haven't touched. The spotlight is shifting in your direction while your enemies are blinded by their own noise. They think their attacks matter, but every scheme they launch is another string tangled around their own feet. And you walk steady, unaware that the ground is being cleared ahead of you, unaware that their downfall is the very soil your rise is being planted in. Destiny doesn't argue. It positions. It doesn't negotiate. It rearranges. And while they waste energy trying to block you, destiny already signed their collapse. Watch carefully. Their castles look tall, but the foundations are hollow. Every scheme, every mask, every performance they put on is cracking under the weight of destiny's hand. They brag like kings, but their crowns are paper. They flex like giants, but their bones are brittle. They thought their laughter weakened you, but all it did was strengthen your silence. And now, that silence echoes louder than their noise. Their fake alliances are collapsing. Their secrets are surfacing. Their confidence is breaking brick by brick. Not because you touched them, but because destiny is tired of their arrogance. That's the beauty of this moment. You don't need to force revenge. You just need to stand still. The same spotlight that refuses to leave you is exposing them. And when the walls finally cave, the streets will remember one truth forever. Out of all the noise, only you stood unshaken. You ever notice how storms shift without warning? Clear skies, 1 second, lightning, the next. That's how destiny moves. Quiet, invisible, then suddenly undeniable. And right now, the tide has already turned in your favor. They don't see it yet, but you can feel it in the air. The spotlight is heavier on you. The silence is thicker around them. Every word they speak drips with insecurity. Every step they take feels uncertain, because deep down they sense it. Their season is ending. Yours is beginning. They laughed when you were still. They mocked when you were patient. But patience was your greatest force. You let destiny rearrange the field. And now the pieces are falling into place, each one cutting off their escape. And when the tide finally crashes, they'll drown not because of what you did, but because of what destiny refused to let them escape. They still think they're in charge, don't they? Plotting, scheming, moving like their hands pull the strings. But the real game has already left their control. Destiny is the dealer now, reshuffling cards they never even saw coming. Every advantage they brag about is a trap disguised as victory. Every step they take forward is another step into quicksand. And you don't even need to touch the board. Your silence is enough. Your presence is enough, because destiny already marked you as the piece that can't be captured. That's why they're restless. They can feel the shift but can't name it. They can sense the collapse but can't stop it. They mistake their moves for progress. But really, they're sprinting toward their own ending. The truth is simple. The board doesn't belong to them anymore. It belongs to destiny. And destiny is moving everything in your favor. Right now, your enemies look confident. They smile, they boast, they pretend the ground beneath them is steady. But destiny is cruel. It works quietly, shifting foundations, loosening bricks, breaking chains they thought were unbreakable. They don't see it, but their empire is cracking in slow motion. One by one, their fake supports are falling. Their alliances are dissolving. Their strength is leaking away. And what's terrifying is they don't even realize it's happening. To them, everything feels normal until the collapse becomes impossible to ignore. And you won't need to lift a single hand. Their downfall is already written in silence, already etched into the script they can't edit. Destiny is dismantling their pride piece by piece until the same mouths that mocked you are left speechless, choking on dust as their false empires sink. They'll never understand how you kept moving without fighting back, how you kept breathing when the weight should have crushed you. They think you were weak, passive, easy to dismiss. But what they didn't see was the strategy of silence, destiny itself, positioning you while disguising your growth. Every delay, every rejection, every closed door wasn't a loss. It was alignment. Pieces were shifting, boards were rearranging, and you were being placed in a seat they swore you'd never touch. That's why you don't have to match their noise, don't have to copy their chaos. Your strategy isn't revenge, it's destiny. And destiny doesn't lose. It bends circumstances, rearranges obstacles, flips enemies into architects of their own downfall. The same traps they set are collapsing under their weight, while you rise untouched. That's the secret they'll never admit. Your silence was never weakness. It was destiny, moving for you all along. While they wasted nights whispering your name with venom, destiny was whispering your name in rooms you didn't even know existed. Conversations you weren't present for, people you've never met, opportunities you didn't chase, already aligning in your favor. That's the invisible advantage they can't stop. Because while their voices cracked with gossip, higher voices were preparing doors only you would walk through. They thought you were alone, but you've been backed by forces they can't measure, by alignments they can't sabotage. That's why their strategies fail without explanation, why their confidence fades without warning. The truth is, you don't need to fight their noise when destiny is echoing your name in silence. That's what unsettles them most. They can feel it, but can't prove it. They can sense it, but can't stop it. You're not just surviving anymore. You're being positioned. And when destiny moves you forward, no enemy alive can block the path. Here's the twist they never saw coming. Destiny doesn't even need you to fight them. It uses their own hands to destroy themselves. Every lie they spun becomes a rope choking their reputation. Every trap they built becomes a cage locking them inside. Every insult they hurled becomes a mirror reflecting their weakness. They thought they were clever, untouchable, victorious. But destiny has been keeping receipts. And now the bill is due. That's why their smiles feel brittle, why their alliances feel shaky, why their confidence feels forced. They don't realize it yet, but their collapse is self-authored. You don't lift a finger. You don't have to, because destiny turned their ambition into ammunition against themselves. That's the cruel beauty of it. Their downfall doesn't come from you, it comes from their own choices, their own greed, their own betrayal. And nothing terrifies an enemy more than realizing they built their own undoing. Pay attention to the air. It's heavier now. That silence that lingers when your name is mentioned, that's not respect. That's fear dressed as quiet. They can feel it coming, though they can't explain it. Their instincts whisper what their pride refuses to admit. Destiny is about to snap the floor beneath them. And you don't even need to warn them. That's the beauty of this moment. Your silence is sharper than their noise. Your patience louder than their rage. They expected chaos from you, but chaos is eating them instead. They expected you to collapse, but they're the ones trembling in shadows they created. The silence is their omen, the pause before the breaking, the calm before their storm. They mocked your stillness, but now it's haunting them, because deep down they know silence doesn't stay silent forever. It builds, it tightens, and when it finally erupts, it doesn't leave anything standing. Every mask they wore is slipping now. The fake laughter, the forced confidence, the staged victories, they're all unraveling under the weight of something they can't fight. Destiny doesn't let lies breathe forever. It peels back the layers, exposes the rot, reveals the truth they tried to bury. And here's the sting. The same people who once stood tall by mocking you are now shrinking under the spotlight. They can't control. They thought their illusions would last, but illusions crumble when reality walks in. And you are that reality. Not because you shouted louder, not because you begged to be seen, but because destiny chose to place you where they could no longer ignore you. That's why their voices crack now. That's why their alliances fracture. Truth is their greatest enemy, and destiny is dragging it into the open, piece by piece, until every lie collapses under the weight of its own spark. They expected you to fight back loud, to rage, to prove yourself with noise, but you didn't. You stayed silent, and that silence became the most dangerous force of all, because silence means patience. Patience means calculation, and calculation means destiny has room to move, and it has. While they wasted breath trying to discredit you, destiny was shifting the stage beneath their feet. Now every word they spoke against you echoes back like a curse. Every scheme they launched ricochets into their own circle. They don't understand how you're rising without striking, but that's the point. You don't have to. Destiny is striking for you. Your quiet presence now feels heavier than their loudest screams, and it terrifies them. Because nothing unsettles an enemy more than realizing the person they mocked doesn't need revenge. They only need to stand still and watch destiny burn the battlefield for them. Time was their ally once. They thought every passing day made you weaker, smaller, easier to dismiss. But destiny flipped the clock. Now every tick is against them. Every sunrise erodes their false confidence. Every sunset tightens the trap they can't see. They believe they're stable, but stability is an illusion. Destiny is dismantling their pillars one by one. What they built in arrogance is collapsing in silence. And the irony? They're helping it fall. Their greed, their pride, their careless steps feed the very collapse they fear. Meanwhile, you move steady, untouched, guided by timing they don't control. You're not racing, you're not chasing, you're aligning. That's why you glow while they tremble, why you walk light while they drag chains of their own making. They don't know it yet, but the countdown isn't yours, it's theirs. And when the clock hits 0, only one throne will remain. Here's what they never calculated. You weren't weak. You were waiting. You weren't broken. you were building. Every scar they laughed at was quietly turning into steel. Every moment they dismissed you was another brick in your foundation. That's why destiny moves for you. It recognizes strength the world tried to bury. They thought patience was surrender, but patience was your battlefield. You let them waste their energy. You let them believe the lies they told about you. And all the while, destiny was turning their arrogance into proof of your resilience. And now, they're staring at someone they can't define anymore. You don't fit the box. You don't match the label. You don't play the part. You are something new, something unmeasured, something terrifying. And when enemies face what they can't predict, they crumble. Because destiny doesn't just build victories, it reveals the strength they underestimated until it's too late. Listen to them now. Their voices aren't steady. They tremble, they crack, they stall. Because fear doesn't need volume. It seeps into tone, it leaks into posture, it echoes in silence. They sense it, even if they won't admit it. Destiny has shifted against them. That's why their laughter feels forced, why their confidence feels rehearsed, why their words don't carry weight anymore. They're playing roles in a play that's already ended, but the audience, the streets, knows the truth. You don't need to confront them. Destiny is doing the talking for you. Every whisper of their fear is confirmation that the collapse is in progress. And soon, when the spotlight burns too bright, they won't just fear you, they'll fear what you represent. Proof that destiny doesn't side with arrogance. Proof that silence can crown kings. Proof that enemies crumble fastest when they never saw destiny moving against them. Look at them closely. Their smiles are heavy, their steps uneven, their confidence cracked. That's not coincidence. That's the weight of destiny pressing down on their backs. Every scheme they made against you is now a burden chained to their spirit. Every lie they told is now a shadow, echoing in their silence. They thought they could dance freely while you stumbled, but destiny has no favorites. It collects every action, every betrayal, every seed of arrogance, and feeds it back to the source. And now they drag the weight of their own choices, while you rise lighter than ever. That's why they avoid your gaze. That's why their voices shake. They don't fear you. They fear the inevitability you represent. Because deep down, they know destiny doesn't forget. It doesn't lose track. It doesn't forgive arrogance. And right now, destiny is closing in on them while lifting you into a light they'll never escape. There was a time they spoke over you, laughed through you, dismissed you like background noise. That time is gone. The power they thought was theirs has already shifted, and they don't even realize it. They're still performing, still acting like rulers, but the stage isn't theirs anymore. Destiny flipped the script, handed you the role they swore you'd never touch, and now the spotlight refuses to leave you. Watch how they stumble when your name enters a room, how their tone softens, how their confidence falters. That's the proof. Power is no longer in their hands. It's in your silence, your presence, your undeniable rise. They can't debate it, can't disguise it, can't control it. They don't run the show anymore. Destiny does. And destiny chose you. That's why their empire trembles. That's why their voices sound hollow. That's why their fear is louder than their applause. The outcast they buried now owns the crown. Time has a way of serving justice without a courtroom. Every second they spent mocking you was another nail in the coffin of their arrogance. Every year you spent in silence was a chapter. Destiny was scripting for your rise. And now the roles are reversed. They thought time was erasing you, but it was erasing them. Their names don't echo the way they used to. Their power doesn't command the same presence. Their voices don't strike weight anymore. But your name, it carries thunder now. Your scars glow as credentials. Your silence hums like prophecy. They can feel it in their bones, even if they never say it out loud. They know the tide has shifted, that destiny's hand is no longer subtle. Every move you make lands heavier than their loudest screams. Every step you take echoes like prophecy. They realize too late that this wasn't luck, wasn't chance, it was alignment. The outcast was never broken, only hidden, waiting for the right season. And now the season has arrived, unstoppable, undeniable. That's why their smiles are weak. Their eyes dart away, their voices sound hollow, because they see it now. Your crown isn't optional. Your rise isn't temporary. Your victory isn't up for debate. It was written long before their laughter, signed long before their betrayal. And nothing terrifies an enemy more than realizing destiny chose you and won't let go. This is where everything converges. The whispers, the shifts, the silent cracks in their foundations. Destiny was never random. It was orchestrating the board, arranging every piece, waiting for this moment. And now the move is complete. You stand where they swore you'd never reach, and they fall in ways they never saw coming. Not because you forced it, but because destiny doesn't negotiate with arrogance. It rewards endurance. It crowns resilience. It protects truth. And you, the outcast, turned unstoppable, are living proof. They crumble, not by your hand, but by the weight of inevitability pressing down on their lies. And you rise, crowned not by applause, but by scars, silence, and survival. The spotlight doesn't just shine, it clings. Destiny doesn't just move, it finalizes. And the board is clear now. Only one piece remains unshaken. You, the one who rewrote the rules, the one who turned betrayal into blueprint, silence into language, scars into crowns, outcast to royalty, wasn't just a rise. It was the proof that destiny bends only for those who endure. And now the story isn't rumor, isn't prophecy, it's law, written in scars, signed in silence, sealed by inevitability. When history searches for its axis, when legends whisper their source, the answer will always be you.